Hello, everyone, and welcome to this next program in the series of programs that's been done by Revere TV regarding the Revere experience with COVID-19 this year. Today we have, and we'll be covering the COVID-19 Oral History Project conducted by Revere High School students this summer. Heading up that project was Tiffany Curry from the RHS Coordinator of College Careers and External Learning Opportunities. That's a long one. Tiffany, welcome to the program. And to all of the students who are attending here today. Why don't you talk a little bit about the program and then introduce the students who are here.
Thank you, Ed. So the Oral History Project kind of came out of our need to be creative and find ways for our 14 and 15-year-olds to be employed this summer. The Mayor's Summer Jobs Program has been in effect for many years, and students work all over the local community. Unfortunately, with COVID, that has really limited the opportunities for students to work out in the community. So this project really just came about as a way to help our students be involved, but also give back to the community. It's funded by a ComCore grant, as well as in partnership with Mass Hire. So we had a great opportunity to kind of be creative and come up with some ideas to employ our students and also be really relevant to what's going on in our community.
I think it's a great program, and I've always been an advocate for using student resources as much as possible with community-related things. So I'm really happy to see and hear about this program. Why don't you introduce the four students who are with us today? Now, I understand that there were 12 or so, 15 students. Maybe you can give a little bit of background there too.
Sure. So we were funded to hire 10, 14, and 15-year-olds for really their first work experience. And we had 2 college mentors that worked with them as well. They were recent graduates from the high school and have now headed off to college. But we have Fiona, who is a sophomore at the high school, and she was a great leader in this whole project. Christy is also a sophomore and worked with us throughout the entire project. And brought a great deal of energy and sometimes some good laughs to the group as well. Malik is a freshman now, so she had not even started high school when this project started, which really shows the amazing talent that this young student has, and she's going to definitely be an upcoming leader at Revere High School. And our other student today with us is Emma. And Emma is also going to be a sophomore and is certainly turning into one of the outstanding leaders rising through Revere High School.
Well, that's great. It's really interesting and very encouraging, as I said, to hear about these students coming on board and their great future that lies ahead with them, and really the benefit that the community will get from their involvement. So thank you all. For your work with this project. Let's see. So maybe we can have each one of you. Emma, do you want to just do a little introduction and talk about what your overall experience was? We'll have a number of specific questions, but what was your overall experience and takeaway from the project?
Yeah, so I basically started this project because I think a big passion of mine is helping people, and I felt like this project for me was a really good start to that, and I felt like I was really helping my community and the people around me, which is really important to me. And I feel like throughout the experience, I really got to learn about the community in ways I had never really learned about it before. So I feel like it was just a really good opportunity for me to hone in on my skills with helping people.
That's fantastic. How about you, Christy? What was your overall takeaway and experience with the project?
Oh, similar to what Emma said, in the past I have been involved in some activism in middle school and some of high school my freshman year. But I think I really got involved in the project because it's important to really just document this time. This pandemic is unlike what we've seen in the past, especially how it's affected us locally in Revere. So I think it's really important to really just record all of our stories and experiences so that people in the future can look back and really understand what we were going through.
Great. And Fiona, what was yours?
So I definitely think during this experience, I have really learned about the community and what everyone has gone through. And I learned that everyone has a different experience, and really learning about your community really betters yourself and your understanding of your role. And so I definitely think it helped me. And during the work experience, I have gained so many skills that I'm going to use in the future. And I'm just really grateful that I got to experience it.
That's fantastic. And Malik, your thoughts?
I also had a wonderful experience. I learned and gained a lot. It's great to hear different people's experience during this tragic time. And I think it's a big part to capture it, because in the future, when everyone could look back and remember big people's voices and what they've gone through. So I definitely think that this experience and having to get this job was amazing, because it was my first job, and to get to be involved in the city that I've lived in my whole life is great.
Yeah, and it's so interesting that you weren't even yet a freshman, yet you got involved in this program. So kudos to you for your initiative and involvement, and to all of you. I think it's great, and as I said earlier, I mean, it's so encouraging to hear all of you talk about how you wanted to kind of give back to the community and get involved in the community, and that's such a great benefit to us as a whole. I understand, and again, we had about, I think you said 10 students altogether, so we have 4 of the 10 were able to join us today. My understanding is in the project that the students all interviewed each other, and then at some point went out and interviewed other people as well. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so the way the project was designed is we really had to kind of create this on the go. We were not as all familiar with the tools that we had access to. So we started out by, learning how to interview someone. Ran a training workshop on that to help students prepare and understand what an oral history is, as well as how to ask really good questions during interviews. Our practice was on each other, and I think those were some of the deepest conversations that were had. Our students interviewed each other to really hear what was going on in each other's lives. And I certainly learned so much about each student through this process, but they also interviewed the superintendent of schools, the principal of the high school, teachers, community members, health professionals. So they not only took these new job skills and ran with them, they entered, some really high pressured interviews and asked some tough questions along the way.
Yeah. So getting to the students, so I actually happened to watch some of the interviews that you did with each other, read some of the other interviews that you had done with other people, and I came away with roughly 4 major things that I kind of took away in terms of a thread in your conversations, and wanted to ask you all to kind of talk a little bit about each one of those. And the first one was, well, let's talk about your lifestyles and your daily routines in the COVID world. As I was watching the interviews and listening to it, I found it quite interesting how it did or did not impact you. So you want to give us a little highlight on some of your takeaways on the impact on students' lifestyles during COVID?
Yeah, I think I could start. Definitely with my peer interview, we definitely talked about how students aren't really getting the education that they would usually in person, and they aren't really getting the social life they used to have. So we're not seeing the people we used to. Like, we see our families every single day, but we wouldn't usually see everybody from school that, even if we don't talk to, we still encounter and socialize with. So I definitely think that really played a huge role in the effect of the pandemic, because we're not really interacting with others. And that's not only impacting how we live, but what we're learning. So I definitely think it had a huge impact on us.
Anybody else? Fiona, Christy, Malik?
Yeah, I totally agree. I feel like since we're not in the school, it's hard to get motivated to do your work. You get distracted with a lot of things around you in the house. If you have siblings, internet issues is a big problem too. And I feel like when you're on Zoom or Google Meet, it's hard to really ask the question since it's not face to face and you're in front of the whole class. You don't know who's speaking. So I think it's like really hard to get the education, like Fiona said, and really participation in the class to know when a student is actually struggling. Yeah.
Christy, Fiona?
So I think one of the biggest things that was affected was my motivation, even outside of school and like all the remote learning and work that we had. Even just like small tasks like, oh, organizing my room or cleaning out my closet. I think just knowing we had so much free time and not knowing when it was going to end, I was able to just keep on pushing these tasks off. And I really struggled to get my motivation like up and so that I would do these things.
Yeah. And let's see, who did I miss? Fiona?
Emma.
Oh, Emma, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I feel like I never really thought about how hard it could be to like contain my life into this house for months on end. And like Christy said, it was really hard to find motivation in school and just like overall tasks. But I also found it hard. I was kind of being hard on myself for not completing these tasks. And it took me a really long time to find out that like during this time, the most important thing is like staying safe and staying healthy. And that's really all that I need to be worrying about right now. But I also feel like going through the peer interviews and talking about this stuff, it was a good experience to like gather your thoughts because I feel like during such a hectic time, you're not really like looking over what you've gone through. You're kind of just looking forward to the future. So talking about what we've been through during the pandemic and quarantine was a really nice way to like look over what we've done and kind of recollect our thoughts.
I found it interesting in one of the interviews, there was one of the students, one of the male students was talking about that, you know, previous to COVID, he wasn't doing too well in school and that at the beginning of this whole process of remote learning, he wasn't doing too well. But at some point in time, turned a corner and started to do better than he was in school. And forgive me, and I forget who the student was, but when, you know, obviously it was a struggle right from the beginning. Did it get any better for you as it went on? And now that we're into another school year, 6 months, 9 months later, is it any better today for you?
I definitely think as time went on, we kind of got used to and accustomed to online learning. And I think that as time is going on with the more planning and the more structured, I guess, school days, we've definitely gotten better. And I think we're all kind of used to it now, even though I think most of us would want to go back to school. I definitely think we've got accustomed to learning online, and I bet like this whole generation is just really like amazing for going on the go, like learning on the go and just going with it.
Resiliency, yeah? That's great. Anybody else?
Yeah, I definitely think that online learning has gotten better this year because I feel like now that we've gotten like a grip on how to handle this in the school especially. So like Fiona said, having like structured meetings and days and time to do independent work versus working with your whole class. I feel like it has gotten a lot better for me personally. But I feel like one struggle that continues is like having a bond with your school and like classmates because I feel like it's really hard to like talk to people and have like these close friendships as we did last year. But I feel like teachers are doing a really good job with trying to get students to talk to each other where it's through like breakout rooms and stuff like that. So I feel like the teachers in our school are doing a really good job with everything.
Great. Christy, Malik?
Yeah, I also agree. I feel like everyone has adjusted. I have adjusted to the new online school. And I think the way the schedule was designed to have independent time, one-on-one with teachers, breaks, because it's good because you shouldn't be on the screen the whole entire time. So it showed that the students in this generation are capable of doing a lot. But then again, I feel like there's a lack of relationships with the students and the teachers. So I think that yes, online is doing good, but most kids would want to go back to school for the relationships with those kids that can't work online and are better sitting at a desk, so that it can actually push them to motivate them, because I know some kids are using their phone during class. So I think when you're in the school, it's better and more motivation.
Okay. Christy?
I remember last year during March and April and May when we had school last year, it was just really confusing for everyone because some people thought that we were going back in person, back to school after like 2 weeks of quarantine. And then teachers had to come up with like their own plans of like, how am I going to teach? I remember I had some teachers, they would have Zoom calls to continue teaching us, and some only focused on review topics. But I think that this year, after months of quarantine, the school has put together a good structure and schedule. And that schedule has really helped put like teachers and students back on track, even if there are a lot of kids who struggle with learning online and teachers who are still unsure on how to teach online, which is understandable since this is nothing, we weren't prepared for any of this. But I think that teachers and the school administration are doing their best to handle it. And personally, I'm doing okay with school right now. There are some times where I struggle, but it's about asking the teacher and reaching out for help, and also Googling stuff online and teaching yourself, and really just owning your learning.
Okay. You know, and from the beginning to this point, and some of the comments that I heard were that you know, it was difficult in the beginning. You've been able to kind of adapt to it to some extent. One of the takeaways I took, I think, that came out of the interviews earlier that I was watching was that I guess one of the downside pieces, and I want to ask if this has gotten any better, was that in the beginning you spent a lot more time in terms of managing how to get your education than managing being educated. In other words, trying to get on Zoom, trying to, you know, look at the schedules and the things of that nature. Has that gotten better for you?
I could start again. I definitely think I'm so used to the schedule now because it's so much better. It's just there, the times. I have my alarm, but before it was really like, okay, what calls are on Zoom, what calls are on Google Meet, what days, what times, when should I wake up this day, when should I wake up the next. It was just a mess, and I think that has gotten better for me, and I think for many other people too. So I definitely think over the summer and over these past few months, the plan that the school has made has definitely made it better for me, and I think other students get through it, and they've just made it easier for us because it's hard for them too. Even though they want us in school, they're doing the best I think they can so far.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah, I agree. I feel like at the beginning it was really hard and chaotic. You had to make sure you had every link for your Zoom, every class. You had to make sure you were on time. And I feel like, but over the time, you like got used to it. You made sure you had like organized. You had every Zoom link in like a specific time. You were on class. And I think getting up and going to class has gotten easier. Definitely in the beginning was hard. I had to sit in a closed room by myself, make sure like I had no distractions. But now I'm capable of focusing on every class, not using my phone. So I think over the time, everyone will get used to it and get better at it.
Great. Christy? Malik? I'm sorry, Malik. You just spoke. I'm sorry, Christy.
I think the consistency of the school schedule now compared to how it was last year has really just helped a lot, because earlier about what I said about motivation, the school schedule, it's not exactly something you can just ignore, unlike like a self-imposed routine, unless you want to miss school. But a lot of students, you know, aren't exactly wanting to do that. But sorry, I'm blanking.
Well, that's quite all right. Well, you know, and one of the things also that I was thinking about, and I didn't necessarily hear in the interviews, was the fact that, if I remember right, or no, your classes start around 8:30 in the morning, I think, somewhere around that time frame. Is that correct?
So our school schedule starts every day with office hours.
Yep.
So students, it's still 7:35, our start time, where students can schedule meetings, individual appointments with teachers. And then our first period starts at 8:05.
Okay.
So students are logged on to their first period. We've kept our schedule with, 4 blocks a day.
Yep.
But we also have built-in flex blocks, which allow students to meet in smaller groups, meet with teachers, administrators, participate in clubs and activities. And that happens twice during the school day. So it's really allowed students to have that structure, whereas in the spring, it was not established. It's, now the schedule's in front of us every day. Students know that they get up at a certain time because school is starting. It's not that you might have a class or you might not have a class.
Yep.
It is you have a class and school has
Yep.
begun for the day.
Yeah, and I was kind of asking the question about when it started in a sense for the students, because, and students, correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, one of the toughest things is getting out of bed in the morning, getting ready to go to school, getting your breakfast, getting the bus, getting there. Now, those things aren't necessary in the picture, so it's a little bit more flexible for you, I think. But tell me your experience. Is it better?
I mean, it's still hard to get up in the morning because who likes waking up early? Like that's just always going to be an issue, I think, with everybody. But I definitely think trying to get to school, like not actually having to go in a car, in a vehicle, or like walking or something, whatever anybody had to go through. That's definitely been easier, I think, for me and for everybody else, just because I don't have to wake up extra early to try to get to school on time. So it's been flexible for me in that way.
Yeah. Anybody else?
For me, it's kind of the opposite, because I feel like when school was actually in person, I had like structure to my morning. I would get up, I would brush my teeth, I would get ready, drive to school. But now I don't really have that structure because it's all done in my house. So I don't know. I just feel like it's a lot harder for me to stay on schedule and stay on time. So I've tried to like create a schedule every morning for myself and like try to recreate what I did when we were in person. But I don't know, it's a little difficult.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I would agree with Emma, because when we have to go in school, it gives you the motivation to get up and have to get ready. But with online, you can just lie in bed for the first classes because you don't have to get up and get ready and go to school. So I think online makes kids just stay at home, and the way getting up is easier since you don't have to like physically go to school. So I think it's way easier.
Yeah. It strikes me as thinking about this is that one of the things that students, going through K to 12, because you're always going to school and there's that structure. And one of the things that most students, after they graduate from high school and go on to college, one of the toughest things they have to learn is managing their time, their day, their studies. And that's being forced on you all at an earlier point in your lives. Would you agree or not? The ability to manage your time and go ahead.
I would definitely agree with that. We're not really used to managing our time with our school schedules, I guess, because obviously there's outside activities like clubs, sports, that you have to manage time with. And I know I've always been accustomed to managing my time with that. But
Oh, I think we lost you.
She's muted.
Okay. So we lost one person. Anybody else in terms of that process of trying to manage your time and starting to learn and needing to do that earlier than you normally would have going on to college? You think it's going to better prepare you for when you go on?
Yeah, I would say. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I would say with like being in school was easier to manage your time because you have to just go to class in the school. Like when the bell rings, you go to the next class. But with online, you have to make sure that you don't go somewhere else when you're like in breaks and like because we get like 10 minutes to like translate to the other class. So you have to make sure that you're like on the class, you don't have any internet issues. Keep everything organized so you can go to each class. So I think with online, it's definitely difficult to like manage your time and your classes, because in school again, it's all there for you and you don't have to worry about just leaving and going back.
Okay, and then I wanted to ask about relative to the breakout rooms and the whole socializing aspect of it. Obviously, I mean, you guys are all young and savvy with social media, do a lot of texting, tweeting, and whatever it is that the Instagram and all the different things you guys do today to keep in touch with one another. Of course, that in-person thing, as you said, is what's missing because you're not able to be in school. During the Zoom, and you mentioned breakout rooms, is there a time where you all kind of socialize during school in the breakout rooms or whatever?
Yeah, so in breakout rooms, the teacher puts like 5 to 7 people in one group. Like she distributes the class into groups, and the teacher like is in like her own room, and the kids then get to collaborate and share ideas where the teacher's not there. So you guys don't have like no one has to feel shy or anything, and it's a small group of kids, so you don't have to be talking in front of the whole class. So I definitely think it's easier and more. You can share relationships during that small group, and just like in the chat if you don't want to turn on your mic or anything.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like you've all somewhat adapted to the whole world of remote learning. And from a COVID perspective, you know, the whole socialization and again, with teens and young people growing up, it's, you know, being able to socialize with your friends. Looking at COVID, not just from the education perspective, but COVID how's it impacted your ability to socialize and be with your friends? Do you still get to personally hang out with friends, or is it all remote?
I know for me, I still get to hang out with a few of my friends, but not all of them because I'm still worried, like with the other people they hang out with. With COVID, I have to be careful. But I know for me, I'm an athlete, so it's definitely affected like my sports and like socializing and training and practicing. Because I know midsummer, my volleyball workouts at the beach were canceled. And I know that they had to move the fall season to fall season 2, and there's still that question of if sports are going to get up and running. And so it's definitely impacted my social life, not only like outside of school, but also like school sports that are after school. So, yeah.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I would say that COVID-19 has definitely challenged relationships in your everyday life because you have to maintain only like meeting small group of people. You can't have like your big friends of just meeting together. You have to keep your mask on at all times. So it's really hard to make relationships and meet new people because you can't, again, like meet in large groups of people. So I think with COVID-19, you have to manage like keeping relationships, but also meeting new ones since you can't again meet in big groups.
So one other aspect of this whole thing was interviewing other people, and as Tiffany mentioned, you interviewed teachers and administrators in the school system. I think you maybe even interviewed some family members or relatives and things. Talk about that experience, particularly with interviewing people within the school system. What was that experience like, going to meet with and interview those people, and how do you think that's helped prepare you for your future?
Well, I would say I feel like, well, I'm just like predicting that COVID-19 is probably going to last for the next couple of months. So you have to get used to talking through Zoom and sharing ideas that way. So I think we got to have those interviews with big people, which we're going to have in our future life, getting jobs, having interviews. So I think when we got to have the interview, the Prince was good because then we got used to talking through the Zoom and sharing our stories and everything.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah,
You can go.
I definitely agree with Malik because like talking through Zoom can definitely be kind of intimidating because you don't know who's going to talk and when, and you don't want to interrupt anyone. And so I think conducting those interviews kind of gave me a little bit more confidence in my ability to like talk through a conversation with someone over a computer, and definitely helped me with like being able to unmute myself during the school year this year and having the confidence to like talk through a Zoom class even when you don't really know like who's going to talk next or like who you're talking to.
What perspective did you take away from your conversations with school administrators and teachers about the level of work that they're doing, the difficulty that they were running up against? What did you take away from those discussions? What sort of major things came out of there?
I definitely think, I know I interviewed the superintendent with a few other students, and I definitely think throughout that interview, I really got that perspective of, wow, her job, so Diane Kelly, her job is really hard. And even though like I really wish we could be in school, it's not safe. And they're really trying to work with all the situations they have, and all like they're listening to they're trying to listen to the city and what people have to say while also making sure everyone stays safe. So I definitely like got into that perspective of their jobs are hard and they're trying their best to fit their way around it, and it definitely made me more aware of that, and instead of like judging as other people have. So I just took away a lot from those interviews, especially the one with the superintendent, because I can really see like what they like, the situations they have to work with and everything they're trying to do while also trying to benefit everyone as much as possible.
Great. Anybody else?
Yeah, I definitely agree with Fiona. I wasn't one of the people who was there to interview Diane Kelly, but I watched back some of it. And I've seen a lot of people being angry at Diane Kelly and just like the school administration and teachers in general, saying things like, oh, like when are we going to go back to school? Or I don't want to learn online in the fall. And I think it's really easy to blame them if you don't understand how much work they're really putting into it. Like the school has been planning for months on what the best plan is for the school, and they thought of all these different options. And you could really see how much thought and effort Diane Kelly and all the other school administration put into it. So you really just understand they're trying their best. And even if you don't like the school plan right now, they're not trying to hurt you. They're trying to help you.
Interesting. Anybody else on that subject?
Yeah, so me and Fiona also, we interviewed the principal of the Revere High School, and I could feel her struggles because she was trying to maintain the relationship with students and teachers and also have the education there. So I saw their experience trying to like figure out how they're gonna start school again, and it really helped me realize like, wow, like they're actually doing a lot. So we shouldn't be like attacking them, saying like, oh my gosh, we should go back to school, because they're trying to keep us safe but maintain our education and relationships.
And it's kind of interesting, and again, you all are your initiative and involvement in the community, and I guess what I'm hearing is what came out of those conversations is a greater understanding of what's going on in the background within the school systems, rather than just being in front of your teachers during the day. Yeah. We only have a couple of minutes left, and I want to be able to wrap up. I guess my closing question to all of you is, having gone through all of this effort right now, or past summer, in preparing for, doing the interviews, using Zoom and everything else like that, where do you think that kind of puts you, and has that given you any perspective on other things you maybe want to do going forward with your education or your life?
Well, definitely hearing everybody's experiences in the community and what everybody I feel like has sacrificed throughout, like it definitely has made me like really like try to reach out into the community and my friends and see how everybody else is doing, and make sure that I stay on top of reaching out even during online learning. I know it's really hard for some people, and it's definitely hard for me too, but it's harder on others. So I definitely try like trying to like reach other people's needs, because I really like have interviewed and seen the experiences of everybody. So definitely reaching out, like.
Yeah, I agree with Fiona. I think right now it's really hard. Everyone's losing their loved ones, so it's important that you keep your relationships and be nice to everyone, be kind, and continue like talking to those people that you think you're not going to because of the fact you're not seeing them every day. I feel like this experience with COVID-19 definitely made me realize a lot of things and how important it is, because you never realize how important something is until you lose it. Because I think that with COVID-19, not able to see everyone makes you realize how important it is to get to see your family members every day. If you lose them, it's hard because you love them so much. And yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, it's been great talking with all of you. I wish I had 2 more hours to talk with you about your experiences. And once again, thank you so much for this initiative, for your involvement in the community. I look forward to talking and meeting with you as you move on, through your time with the high school. And Tiffany, any last thoughts from you?
I just think it's really important to recognize that, these are 14 and 15-year-olds who took on this work. Most of them can't get a job anywhere at their age. Most places don't hire till 16. And to see the work that they produce, they were never late to our meetings. They were always on time, always prepared, followed through on independent work. And, in times like this, professionals can't do that. So, just so proud of the work that these students have done, and can't wait to see how they kind of grow and blossom over the next few years at Revere High School.
Yeah.
So very grateful.
Well, thank you all very much. I really do appreciate you taking the time. I appreciate the project you've done. I think it's going to give a lot of insight to people in terms of what it was like going through the COVID, especially for students. And for those of you who are interested in seeing the interviews and reading some of the interviews, you can go to the link, which will be displayed on the screen, and check it out. Well, until the next time and the next project that we get to talk about, you guys take care, and really, thanks again so much. So,
Thank you.
All right. So for Revere TV, until we meet again, please stay safe and take care.